Hello there, a very good evening and many thanks for joining us on yet another exhilarating yet informative edition of the People's Parliament. We are yet again here in Lera District where we are trying to create avenues through which we can create a conducive environment where all stakeholders alike can share perspectives or ideas on how best we can end sexual, gender-based violence in our communities. Gender-based violence manifests in many forms. It could be sexual, it could be physical, it could be emotional, and it also includes economic and educational deprivation in that regard. In our last episode of the People's Parliament, we did have a submission from the in-charge of Ogu Health Center 4, that is Mr. Okot Jim, and he mentioned that many of the sexual reproductive health services within the various jurisdictions are actually pretty much strong when partners such as Reproductive Health Uganda are in those respective jurisdictions. But when they leave, he noticed that there is a trend where these services die out or lose steam. So we want to know why. From one of our partners, that is Reproductive Health Uganda, Mr. Robert Ochaya is going to be defending the partners.
Yeah, thank you once again, the Right Honourable Speaker, People's Parliament in Lera, and welcome back to Lera District.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of programs that address SGBV and sexual reproductive health of young people often die off because they are not owned by the districts. They are not owned by the government, and sometimes they are not backed by policies. And so we only bring piecemeal, efforts that die off as soon as we take off our funding. As you know, NGO fundings come periodically and they're based on, timelines. So it is very important for districts, government, parents, and all actors to invest resources in ensuring the sexual reproductive health and rights of young people, and also to ensure that these are sustained and these are not just piecemeal. I think we don't get the support from certain sections of government, like the law enforcers. A lot of speakers last week mentioned that the police, sometimes they enter into negotiation with culprits and they're left scot-free. This means that people no longer fear, to commit vices that affect the rights of our young people. And I think something needs to be done to strengthen all arms of government at all levels to ensure that they take this as a very important issue that must be upheld. We've also heard that youth corners at health facilities are weak. They are not funded, or if they are funded, they are largely funded by development partners. I think it is important that district level, sub-county level, and at government level, we dedicate resources. We put in place budgets to address, the health and the well-being of our young people. It is good that development partners are willing to work with, districts and the public, but it's not the sole role of development partners. It is the role of government units at different levels to ensure that, young people's issues are put at heart. There are also issues that affect communities that can really be addressed at the local level. Issues of high consumption of alcohol. You don't require, a CSO or a UN agency to come and regulate consumption of alcohol in your districts. I don't know if there are bylaws in Lera district that restrict, certain types of alcohol. There are districts that, for example, they have banned the sachet alcohols. Is it the case in Lera? Probably also, policing, community policing. Reach out to these places where people drink from and, sensitize them, where there are young people who are drinking. Find a way of, trying to rehabilitate them, and this should be a role that the local government should take gladly. The cultural institution, we've heard from speakers in the previous session that there is a decay in terms of supporting the moral upbringing of a child. I'm glad that a few months ago there was a big discussion here, and the Lango Cultural Institution pledged to play its part in addressing sexual and gender-based violence. I think also we need to retool our health workers, our community service workers, our teachers. Retooling meaning organizing and supporting refreshers for them so that they get the right skills to handle, our young people, when it comes to issues of sexual reproductive health and rights, and also issues that address gender-based violence. Also, to keep the fire burning, we need the involvement of young people themselves. Young people, when you are given space, please speak up for your own issues. Do something to address your own issues that affect you. Last but not least, a lot of these issues, when we address them, we take them as their women's issues. We say, you know, the girl child is vulnerable, the girl child must be protected. We leave out the boy child, we leave out the men. I think men and the boys are key stakeholders in addressing SGBV and also addressing sexual reproductive health issues. Because men and boys are often accused as the culprits, they are the very people that should actually be targeted. The young boys should be taught to respect their sisters, should be taught to support their sisters. They are the support system that culture should build up to support their sisters. Men should know that it is not only the role of mothers to talk to young girls about growing up, to provide for young girls' need. If you're a good father, your daughter should not fear to ask you for money, for pads, if you talk to them, if you give them time. And so I think we need to involve men, and we need to ensure that we as parents play our part. What is more important than your child? You can't shelve these issues and say, no, wait, we shall address this, let's first make money, let's first do this.
Thank you very much for that great line of defense, Mr. Robert Ochaya. Remember, yes, Reproductive Health Uganda has been implementing information dissemination on sexual reproductive health and rights for almost 2 years, using the Standing Strong Together program, which is being implemented under Reproductive Health Uganda and Reach a Hand Uganda. So as it is, our implementing partners like RHU, RAHU are doing more than they can to disseminate information on this subject so that we can alleviate the problems affecting our adolescents. But then where is the government? I'd like to hear from the Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Yes, in your defense, these projects are dying out because you do not offer continuity. Why?
Thank you very much, the Right Honourable Speaker. I only have two things to say. One, we need to have an empowerment program that looks at the greater picture of the victims. We need to have skilling programs for the victims so that once they're affected, they can come back. We need to have financial opportunities for them so that they can have something to do. And as such, government has come up with a number of opportunities for them. The people who are affected can be able to access the youth livelihood programs. They can be able to get opportunities under NUSAF. These are programs that are within us.
It seems like these are programs that should be implemented by the DCDO, Ms. Christie. Poverty alleviation schemes such as that.
Yeah, but these are programs of government. And
she's going to give us a submission.
She will. A number of things are done, but sometimes people don't play their varied roles. You find police doing something different. You find the print media also doing something different, and yet we could be able to do all these things together and cause exposure to the vice that we are all going through. If we are able to bring a number of educative materials and distribute them to a number of our persons, we would be able to reduce this vice and make it better.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'd also like to hear a submission from the DCDO, Madam Christine. Poverty alleviation is a big issue. So what are you doing in that respect as the DCDO, the District Community Development Officer, in 3 minutes?
My name is Christine Anono. I work as a district CDO. I want to begin by saying that social protection is a responsibility of everybody.
Indeed.
And if we don't join hands, sexual and gender-based violence is yet to stay. And again, we need to look at prevention instead of response. I want to say that poverty is one of the contributing factors to sexual and gender-based violence, but government has tried to initiate programs. Like the cow said, the Youth Livelihood Program is an economic empowerment program. UWEP is one of the economic empowerment programs. There is special grant for persons with disabilities also to empower. Now, children get to school within the framework of government policies to be protected. We've had the rising cases of teenage pregnancy, defilement cases during COVID, because children came back home and the schools which they were supposed to be became the hotspot where they're defiled. They're defiled by the roadside. Yet all of us are there. The parents are there, the LC1s are there, everybody is there. So this is the responsibility of everybody. And if at all, we need to do something to reduce on the cases and also to eliminate it completely. One, we need to empower the children to protect themselves, because we are failing to protect the children. They need to protect themselves and defend themselves. But only if we are around them. We also need to economically, we scale up the economic empowerment of women who help the children who help to protect the children.
What is your department doing in that respect?
We have programs like I've already mentioned. We do a lot of community engagements, and during the COVID, we managed to map out the hotspots in the sub-counties in the district. I am happy to report that when we engage later to find out what has happened, at least community structures tried to monitor the hotspots, they held meetings in the hotspots, and we think we are going to register positive results. In the district, we have defilement is highest. If you look at the National Gender-Based Violence Database, defilement is highest. And children are defiled at home. Defilement, sexual violence is not done by strangers. It is done by people the children know, the women know, the people we know, but we keep quiet.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Christine, the Lira District Community Development Office. I'm going to call on you in the next hour so that you give us, the next segment, so that you give us recommendations in this respect. What can we do as a whole to arrest this situation? Of course, in the next segment, I would also like to hear from the man, yes, the man in our midst. You've been accused of perpetuating sexual gender-based violence against our young girls. What is your best line of defense? I'd like to hear from at least 3 men in our midst. And also the parents. I'd like to hear from some parents in our midst. You've been accused of selling off young children into commercial sex, selling off young children into early marriages and so forth to make money. What is the best line of defense from those parents? The teachers, what is your role? What are you doing to arrest this situation in the schools? The religious leaders, why is there opposition to the National Sexuality Education Framework? And the cultural leaders who are perpetuating this problem using cultural norms and so forth. You're still watching the People's Parliament Later Edition. Let's take a breather. We'll be right back shortly. Keep it here. Welcome back to the People's Parliament Later Edition. We are still here talking about sexual gender-based violence, which has become rife in our country, especially the Later jurisdiction where we are right now. So we would like to hear from the men who are being accused of perpetuating sexual gender-based violence against our young women within this jurisdiction. I do have a gentleman right there who wanted to make a submission in that regard. Maybe you would be one of those gentlemen who can offer a line of defense to the men who are being accused for perpetuating this very, very bad scourge of sexual gender-based violence.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. My name is Haloka Ambrose. I'm a media practitioner based in Radio Wa in Lira here. I have 2 issues.
Indeed.
One, in relation to gender-based violence, the cultural leaders at the lower level, at the middle stage, and up to the high level, they are practically not doing their work. We expect the cultural leaders to be calling meetings, to meet their own people, to tell them, to sensitize them about gender-based violence, the dangers. But here is what happens. The cultural leaders wait for when somebody has died, that is when they call for a meeting. They wait for the worst to happen so that a meeting is called.
Number two.
Number two, when it comes to the issue of addressing this matter by the police, there's always a challenge that they compromise this very serious issue. A girl is defiled, and here is a police officer who will come and say, I think it is better you people should talk before it goes to court, which is really very dangerous. I pray that the police and people who are concerned should take up this matter seriously so that penalties should be given to the practitioners, the victims, such that at least the fight to cap down the issue of SGBV is done amicably.
So we need to offer examples. But then you need to offer a line of defense for our men who are being accused of perpetuating this problem. What do you have to say about that? Is it the men only to blame?
Basically, it's on both sides. That's why I was telling you that if a girl is defiled, she has no problem. It is the boy with the problem. So can there be some drastic measures also on the ladies so that the general characteristics that they will be living among the communities should also be balanced? Because really, you charge the boy because of doing this. The girls will continue with this normal act that even if we are defiled, for us we don't have any problem. It is what? It is the men. Let the drastic measures be also put on the girls for, for getting involved into sex.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambrose, for that submission. I also do have a gentleman right there. Yes, you wanted to make a submission? Yes, please come over.
My name is Thomas J. Fashionabalem.
Yes, Thomas.
I have categorized the sources of GBV into about 4.
Please break them down.
Number 1 is the youth themselves are causes of GBV. Number 2, the government.
The government. Number 3.
Including central government, local government, and the lower local governments. Number 3 are policymakers.
All right. Number 4.
And number 4 are the parents.
So break
themselves.
It down, starting with the youth.
So why do I say the parents are key stakeholders, actually, or categories in bringing GBV? It is they have not adequately been able to bring up their children in a God-fearing manner. So they just grew up as people who do not know where they came from. Actually, they don't know God. They don't know where their life came from. If you're a parent who is religious enough, you should be able to bring your children well. The Bible even talks about bring your children in a godly, fearing way now that they are young and are able to listen to you. And if you have not done that, we count that problem on you. 2, drunkardness is also from the parents themselves. If you are drunk or alcoholism, you are completely out of your senses.
You're not exemplary.
There is no way you can think about yourself and your family, how they should grow well to help you in future. And also, lack of adequate guidance that you have not been able to give your children, where they should get knowledge and skills from so that they're able to live a better life thereafter. So all this, we count it on the parents themselves if they have not been doing that. The youth themselves, they have actually failed to think that there are key resources in this country that we need them to develop this country together. They have gone into not thinking about themselves. For them, they think the best way is entertainment. You go to drink, you get radios, you listen to, and you go to music disco hall and this kind of thing, and that is the love, the world they want to live in. They are not thinking about skills development, how they should be skillfully brought up, and they have a self-reliance life after. So they are actually to be blamed themselves. Because how can you live in a world that is wealthy of different resources and you fail to tap even one?
Let's go fast forward to the government and the policymakers.
The government, the policymakers themselves have not been able to bring in adequate policies that looks into the youth affairs, particularly even access to accurate sexual reproductive health rights that the youth should be seen to be benefiting from. So the youth, they are in a world where they have not been shown where they can enjoy their reproductive health rights from. Actually, they don't know even. So we shall come out with solutions as to way forward into that. And the youth themselves also, you see, they have grown into taking drugs, marijuana, the cocaine, and glue. They normally use glue to make them drunk, and then they forget about the world. They look at the world and think it is their own. You get the point?
So there is despair and hopelessness among the youth.
That's the kind of thing.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. You wanted to end your pointers with something from government?
Government, they should adequately implement policies, particularly at the district level. There are also policies at district level under ordinances, even lower local government under bylaws. So these laws should be implemented in order to benefit other people. If you sit on it, then it will not benefit us. So
Thank you
just
very much, Thomas Jefferson, for those humble submissions. You did put the parents on spot. So I would like to hear from the parents in our midst. If you can raise up your hand and put up a line of defense from the parents. Is it true? Thank you very much, Thomas. Is it true that parents have failed to offer great upbringing to their children? You're a parent. If you can come and offer a submission.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Flora Kello. I'm a social worker and a parent.
Indeed.
I'm a mother of 4.
Great.
I don't think it is true that we have failed to manage our children. We have really tried. But the problem is that these days, our kids are exposed to so many things. And to some extent, we have failed by us not including our kids into things we do in the family. Like during this lockdown, most of the kids have not been very much involved in participating, let me say, in the economic development of a home. Some parents tend like me, I have children. I have 2 big girls, but I've included them. At least this season, they have been so busy in such a way that I had to take away the maid. I talked to them, I told them, these days, government is not opening schools. Of course, they are all not candidate classes. I told them, I'm taking the maid back to their home. I made the girls take full responsibility of the home because I work. But some parents don't do that. Some parents over-pamper their children. They don't give them, they really don't encourage them to participate in their home. And some children are unruly. You're given a task to do, you don't want to do, you only want to go out to watch movies, go out and be with friends. So parents are really trying, but on the other hand, youth are also not serious. They want to get things that they have not worked for. And going for that, we'll call in for defilement, rape. As my children, I'm telling you, there is nothing you can get free without payment. Like, for example, the girls. You don't want to work home, you want to get money from a boy out of home. You'll have to pay for it in a hard way. And that alone will lead to early pregnancy.
And that is the
rape.
information parents need to impart among their young women. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would also like, amazing submission. Amazing submission. Thank you very much. I'd also like to hear from the teachers. Is it the role of the parents to disseminate sexuality education, or are the teachers sleeping on their job and sending it back to the parents? We'd like to know. Ideally, we've been hearing from some teachers who are saying, no, it's from the parents that are supposed to disseminate sexuality education. But then if the parents are sleeping also on the job, shouldn't you be taking on the mantle in its entirety?
Yes, thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and everyone in this House. So I am a Kwara Bonifred. I'm a teacher, primary school teacher. A lot has been said, and I have a few things to say or to add on what people have said.
But first, who should be disseminating sexuality education, teachers or parents?
There are very many people who have hands in this sexually based violence, and teachers also play a role, despite the fact that parents have also been accused of all this.
Go ahead.
Now, the teachers have to play a role of guiding the children, because in the absence of the parents, when the children are taken to school, it is the work of the teacher. The teacher becomes a parent at school. So the teachers should work hard to guide the children and to teach them the good morals and how to behave, because we have got so many cases at school. But again, on the other side, the parents, when they are called by the teachers to handle these issues, maybe a child has been caught in this kind of act, which we are talking about, some parents become aggressive to the teachers instead of understanding the issues at hand, how to address them. So I would ask the parents that when they are called by the teachers because of such acts,
They should respond.
They should respond. And others don't come. When you invite them, they don't come to school. And this makes the work difficult.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for that humble submission. I'll call on you in the next segment so that you can offer solutions to this problem.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we've come to this to the end of this segment of the People's Parliament. We are still in Lira District. As you can see from most of our speakers, we're trying to devise means on how best we can create an inclusive environment where all stakeholders can share ideas on how best we can do away with sexual gender-based violence, and also how best can we promote sexuality education programs or policies that are already in place. Let's take another breather. We shall return with the final segment where we shall be perusing through some of the recommendations that could be helping us arrest this situation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the People's Parliament Later Edition. It's an absolute pleasure knowing that you're still watching NTV Uganda. Well, we are still here in the Later jurisdiction trying to devise recommendations at this point in time to the scourge of sexual gender-based violence. So we would like to hear from a member of the religious leaders, a member representing the religious leaders, to give us some of the recommendations in that respect, and why is there opposition to the National Sexuality Education Framework. So you can make your way to the podium. Your name?
Thank you very much. The Honorable Speaker and all the members, I greet you all. With the church, I'm here, but I'm very pity. This is my observation. We've been trying as the church, teaching the youth and the parents. But you find that every year, you see the total number of people is very high. Like the other time, I remember we sat somewhere about these two issues we are talking about, but the rate is going up.
I see.
I'm praying.
As a religious leader, what could be the cause and what role are you playing to ensure that we stem
the cause of all this problem is, number one, is we the parents. We are not doing our roles. That is point number one. Why? If you read the Bible very carefully, like my brother Jefferson Obalim was talking about, we have failed to do our roles of teaching the children that we have. Because I remember those days, our parents used to teach the moral decay, like others people are talking about. But nowadays we don't have time. And nowadays, we, the generation of today's, we don't have time because we just wake up in the morning, then we go back late in the evening. So we don't have time to talk to our children. You find out we have left the children alone, like now during the COVID. Now, at least has given us time maybe to talk to our children. But those days before the COVID, we give opportunity to our children to go out and do anything.
So young girls have been defiled, women have been raped. What is your take on contraception use? We do have post-exposure prophylaxis. You can give it to a young woman or man and they won't get HIV. You have Postina or P2. It can help a young woman to avoid pregnancy. What is the take of the church or religious leaders on the use of contraception?
We are talking about this to our young people that because the Bible said...
Is it okay for young people to use contraception? Yes or no?
I agree.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree. I agree with that. So I was saying, with the parents, we need to pull up. That is point number one. Let's give time to our children and we talk to them. Because the Bible says in the Proverbs 22 verse 6, if you train your children, you teach your children earlier before, they are going to grow very well.
Okay, that's what the parents ought to be doing. But then you as the religious leaders, what are you doing in this respect? To
For us now, what we are doing now, we are doing like 2 years ago. We've been doing the issue of calling the young people for the fellowship. We teach them, we read them.
That is 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Meaning during COVID, it became impossible to carry out such services?
It is not easy now. So we have been calling them for the convention. Like 2 years ago in a little urban here.
I see.
We have been doing that. And to teach them about the life.
What
and
else?
How they should live. So that is point number one. Even number two is use themselves. Obalin and the other people was talking about here, they use themselves. They're not serious because you teach them how to live. This is the way to go, but you find that later on, even me personally, I have so many experience I've seen as a priest. You teach this one, you call this one, like the other time I met one of the pastor's kid going out for this thing we're talking about. But I called her, I said, this is very bad. But I've seen how the lady will come back to me. He said, no, this is my right. You see?
Final recommendation.
Yeah. So my recommendation is, number one, I have only two. We need community alert. This is point number one. I want to talk about it.
Don't leave the issue of raising the child to the parents, but the whole community.
Yes, the whole community should come out.
Number two.
Number two, we need documentation of the children that we have. That is going to help us. To know that, yes, this lady going out or this man coming to marry this lady, this girl here of 17, 16, we have all the documentation that can help us.
So that we can get on a name and shame
Exactly.
campaign. Thank you very much for that humble submission. I'd also like to hear, very great submission. I'd also like to hear from the parent, one of the parents in our midst. Parents are being accused. Mr. Okello Hillary, you wanted to make a submission. Parents are being accused of not doing enough to groom young children and so forth. What do you have to say about that, and what could be the recommendations of the parents yourselves in this respect?
Thank you once again, Right Honorable Speaker, People's Parliament. When you look at all this problem which is disturbing our young people, it stems on one thing, the right. They have completely misinterpreted their right. They have not understood.
I think the mask is suffocating your audibility, sir. Right.
Every time their complaint is, this is my right. It is my right to do this. It is my right to do this. One just mentioned here that they are not allowed to go out. They are not allowed to go and do this and that. But it is your responsibility to prove to us, the parents, to prove to us, to prove to your guardians that you're a good person and that whenever you go out, you're going to do the right thing. Not only basing on my right, my right, my right.
That convince the parent that you're out there doing good.
If you have good morals, if you are, whenever you go out, you are not fond of those bad things, will your parent prevent you from going out?
Recommendation number two, Ms. Okello.
The recommendation is simple. Let us empower the young people to know their concerns. Because all that the parents are doing, you are very vulnerable. Once we empower them to know their concerns, to know their responsibility, to know, to differentiate between what right is and responsibility, they'll be good people. Thank you.
Mr. Carlo Hillary is the Principal Medical Officer for Lira District. So what better way to get the best line of defense from the young people than to listen to them themselves? Young lady, if you're out there doing good, why would your parents stop you from going out to these community development schemes or any of these activities based on sexual reproductive health? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Speaker, for today. I'm by the name Among Jennifer, a youth leader.
So what should we be doing for you as young people to help you alleviate this problem of SGVB?
Okay, according to me as a youth, parents are denying their girls on contraceptives. What I mean is family planning methods. Girls are denied their rights to take contraceptives to prevent early pregnancy. And what I'm telling the government to do is to go outside the community and advise parents to allow the young girls to take the contraceptives in order to avoid early pregnancy.
But how can a parent allow you to use contraception if they don't know you're engaging in sexual acts?
Like, according to me as a youth, parents should be free to tell their girls about the sexual affairs and discuss with them about the love affairs so that you can get the access to know whether...
If this happens, you can get this to protect yourself. I see.
And the point number two, it's about the big men. You know, men of this day, they're deceiving the girls with money in order to get sex.
You don't say.
From the girls, from the young girls. That's why our girls for today, they're getting pregnant at their early ages because of money.
So men are lying to you girls.
Sorry?
Number three.
Have only 2
Thank you very much. Wow. Wow. All right, we do have, young lady, you wanted to say something about this problem.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. My name is Teddy Auma from Lira here. Mine will take a different direction. I have one main recommendation, and it is about stigmatization. I don't know, even with COVID, the people who've gotten COVID and have recovered, they're not very free. Actually, we don't know them because people are likely to stigmatize them because they have COVID. In the same way, for sexually gender-based violence victims, they're going to feel stigmatized. So even if the government has programs, training, and they're giving them skills, have they considered their mental health? Are we having guidance and counseling? And are these people feeling left out after all this has happened to them? That's a challenge I'm posing for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me hear from a gentleman for purposes of gender balance. You wanted to say something, so you have like less than 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Arokele Innocent. I'm a student. Yes, when you talk about gender-based violence, it's right, we know it's happening. And
so give us some recommendations.
Some recommendation, 2017-2018 statistic about the teenage pregnancy in Lira. It was so alarming that I even took some steps, by the way, myself. I wanted to jump in the street and call the youth either to demonstrate about this. But then someone told me, no, it's not a right channel. Please contact some people in the district. Then I remember I contacted someone. Then he said, no, you follow this channel. Put in your problem and then you petition it to the district. Then we did that. The recommendation you're talking about, we have them in the petition, and it was through the help from Reproductive Health Uganda. It was based about sexual reproductive health rights. Some of the few things in the petition will come as a recommendation also. we were requesting the Lira District local government, at least in all the health facility, let them allocate some places for the youth. Whenever the youth are seeking for some help and the youth planner is there, they feel that privilege that at least there's some privacy for them in case they want, like, we know youth nowadays at the age of 14, 15, they are actually sexually active. And if they are not trained and they are not discussed about their rights, they may be misled. If this, that place, that corner for them, they even feel free that there's a youth there also attending to them, then they can discuss their issue with that person.
Okay,
and then
thank you very much for
thank
that
you, Mr.
humble
Speaker.
submission. At this opportune moment, let's hear it from Mr. Wilberforce Ojambo from RHU. He is the Director of Finance. So we want to know what are the commitments of our implementing partners, Reproductive Health Uganda, now moving forward. Remember, we were in Kabale, we were in Moyo, and now we are in Lira. So we were traversing these 3 districts, and we shall be ending this journey in Lira. So what next, Mr. Wilberforce, in that regard?
Yeah, thanks so much, Honorable Speaker and the August House. Of course, for us as Reproductive Health Uganda, we are here to work with you to end this vice. Now, as an institution, Reproductive Health Uganda, we have specific interventions, and our interventions are anchored on 4 main outcome areas. We do a lot of advocacy, and that's why we are doing we are following up the school health policy. We want everybody to access reproductive health services. We focus on the sexuality education, focusing on the young people, and that's why we have youth corners wherever we operate. 3, we are in service delivery, and we have 19 clinics, static clinics where we offer our services. In fact, we have the best clinic here in Lira. The best clinic that we provide is here in Lira. In terms of commitment, we are going to work with partners. We will continue to work with the district and other partners to end this vice of SGB.
Should we expect to see a national rollout of for all the districts in Uganda?
Yeah. We believe that if we can get support from our partners, we should be able to roll out. Yeah, we should be able to roll out other districts.
So it's not just Lira?
It's not just Lira. We are in several districts. In fact, our activities are across the country. So we should be able to work with Lira district and other districts.
This is amazing. Go ahead, sir.
To make this happen, to end this vice of sexual SGBV. In terms of support the youth, we commit to create space and provide more information to the young people.
Nice.
Yes, because that's why we have youth corners. All our clinics, we have youth corners, and we believe the public health units should also have youth centers so that our youth, the young people are able to access information. Some of these problems are brought about by limited access to information. Young people lack information, and if they can get the necessary information, then we should be able to support them. Thanks so much.
With that, we've come to the end of this edition of the People's Parliament. We were in Moyo, we were in Kabale, and this journey ends in Lira. But like you've heard from Mr. Wilberforce, yes, more is being done to ensure that we roll out a national dialogue where we reach out to every district in this country. Many recommendations have come about. Youth corners need to be strengthened. Retooling of teachers and districts need to offer that continuity for these services. When we vacate as NTV, when we vacate as Reproductive Health Uganda, Murray Stopes, a United Nations Population Fund, can the districts take on the mantle of offering continuity for these services? And of course, my name is Romeo Busiku. Special thanks to the audience in our midst. You've been very, 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 active during this session, and I want to thank you for that. And for you, the audience who have been watching at home, thank you for keeping it NTV Uganda. Till we meet again, I'm your speaker, Romeo Busiku.